This is draft season. Hello, everybody. It's all brought to you by Moody's, a proud sponsor of the New York Giants. I am John Schmelk, and joined as always, fresh from his trip back from Indianapolis, the one and only Tony Pauline from Essentially Sports. Tony, welcome back to the tri-state area, my friend.
Good thing it's the one and only. Yes, it was. It was stressful getting out there because of the snow, which you were unable to do. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, always trying to come up with something new, pull a rabbit out of the hat, and all the workouts, which are going insanely long now. I mean, I was doing a wrap-up video for Essentially Sports, 7:45 on Friday. I had to meet somebody for dinner after 8, and the tight ends were just running. We're starting their 40 workout. And then yesterday it was like nobody cared because the media section anyway was empty. The hotels were empty. Hung out at the JW. Just saw a few people there. So it's interesting how things worked, how things progressed.
Yeah, I don't know how they can still do events on Saturday and Sunday, because I'm sure they want that for television purposes, right? But have the media stuff all done by Friday. I don't know if that's even possible. The offensive line might not get there until like Friday night, a lot of them, because they don't work out till Sunday. So I'm not sure if there's a way to fix that, but that was always even before they put the offensive lineman on Sunday, Tony, the DBs used to be the last day, and we never used to stay for that either, and now it just happens to be the offensive lineman.
Yeah. Well, back in the day when I first started going, the DBs were the final group, and that was on a Tuesday. Now, they did have press availability for the offensive lineman on Saturday, because I was down in the media room on Saturday, and the offensive lineman got some good quotes and spoke with a couple of guys.
Not many people were there, though, right? Saturday. Everyone had left by then, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Radio Row, I think I popped my head in the Radio Row. I think there was one person, one station, whatever, still operating. The media center, all Fox and everything had cleared out. I mean, it was basically maybe a couple dozen reporters sticking their camera phones and their microphones up when the offensive lineman addressed everybody.
Yeah, it stinks because the offensive linemen are usually great quotes. You know, they tell good stories. They're great personalities. And no one's doing live shows on Saturdays. That's the problem. You know, all these networks are playing games, whether it's college basketball or whatever. We're not doing weekend shows live. So a lot of people clear out of there just because of scheduling purposes. And it stinks because the offensive linemen are always some of the funnest people to talk to.
Never mind, it's probably, as a unit, the most important on the football field. I mean, when you think about it, so you can need the quarterback, running back. It doesn't matter if you don't have an offensive line. Even it's important to defense because they got to control the ball. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. Yesterday I had posted in my news section about some changes coming up that are expected in the combine, potentially as soon as next year. It's not as far as it's not going to change that schedule, other than that the 40s and some of the testing will take place for the players in the beginning of the week. And then they will go through the medical testing and the interviews and everything else as the week proceeds. They're going to flip around that schedule, which makes sense because for years when I've been going to the combine, players and more so their agents have complained about the fact that testing is done at the end of the week after these guys go through 3 days of medicals, up till 11 o'clock at night doing interviews, and they're just physically and mentally drained. And then, oh, yeah, you got to get on the field and run your fastest 40 time, jump your highest, and look great in position drills. That looks like it's going to change. But I don't think it's going to change what you and I just talked about.
Can they make it a requirement to run the 3-cone drill? Because I think like 25 guys like the entire week ran the 3-cone, which is very depressing.
It is, but it's understandable because of what I just said. Right. I mean, they'll do the vert and the broad jump, before they run the 40. And if you look, there were only a few guys whose second 40 attempt was better than their initial 40 attempt. And that's because, right or wrong, people may disagree, but they're starting to lose their legs because of the vertical, because of the attempts at the vertical, attempts at the long jump. Their first 40, I mean, they're not tired. I saw one guy get tired, which we'll talk about. It's just a natural progression of things. And then they do the 20-yard shuttle, and the last thing is the 3-cone. And they're like, the heck with it. I'm too tired. I've done this. I'll just do the 3-cone at pro day.
All right, so let's do our combine review here, Tony. That's going to be today's show. Where do you want to start? Do you want to go reverse order in which they went during the week? How do you want to do this, Tony? You tell me.
Let's go. Let's go our usual order when we do positions: quarterback, running back, et cetera, et cetera.
Let's do it. So we'll start quarterback, and I'll do my usual caveat that I find throwing at the combine for quarterbacks to be fairly useless. I think it's good to see how the ball comes out of their hands. But look, I'll be honest. The two things struck me. One, you kind of see the men separated from the boys when they run that one deep out route, and they have to throw that deep 20-yard out. And like 80% of the quarterbacks were all over the place, and they could not barely put the ball where it's supposed to be. But I thought Ty Simpson did really well, man. I mean, he was putting the ball where it's supposed to be. It was good velocity. He was accurate. He was on time. His footwork was pretty good. I thought Ty Simpson, for as much as you can help yourself at the combine, and again, for quarterbacks, to me, it's not that important. I thought Ty Simpson had a really nice day.
The combine's made for Ty Simpson. He's got terrific physical skills. For the most part, he's accurate. Ty Simpson's issue, as far as I'm concerned, if you watch the film, is he stares down his primary target too long when as the play is proceeding, which will kill him on Sunday. It's not a problem for a combine workout. Completely agree with you about the deep out is the money throw at the NFL combine. It's a little bit longer than 20 yards. It's 35, 40 yards down the field. What was interesting this year is in years past, they do the deep out from both sides of the field. Receiver goes up, cuts to his right, then goes up, cuts to his right. They only did it on the right side this year. They didn't do both sides, which was kind of interesting because years past, they've done it on both sides, to check out both the receiver and the quarterback. I agree with you about Ty Simpson. I thought he had a terrific workout. He was accurate. He was on the money with his throws. And remember, this is the first, as far as I know, first time Ty Simpson is taken to the field at Lucas Oil Stadium. And a lot of these receivers, he's thrown to for the first time. His primary target, Jermaine Bernard, was in the first group of receivers. Ty Simpson was in the second group of quarterbacks. I thought he had a terrific workout. I thought Carson Beck was also very good, very accurate. Few passes got away from him, but overall, I thought he had a terrific workout. I was also surprised with Garrett Nussmeier in the sense that we talked about this. I wanted to see Garrett Nussmeier. Was he able to power the ball downfield? Was he able to get speed on his long throws? Or was the passes hang in the air and the receivers had to slow up in their routes and wait for the ball to get to him? I didn't see too much of that. So Nussmeier, I was impressed because I saw better arm strength than I expected.
Yeah, I agree. I think all three of those guys did pretty well. And then I think the rest of the group, you're looking at, day three backups type guys down the road. We'll see how that shakes itself out. All right, Tony, let's jump over to the running back position, where it's a group that was not very ballyhooed coming into the week. Not many of them ran the 40-yard dash. A lot of running backs, decided not to do that. And, of course, I think the reason's pretty obvious. You're not going to run very fast. And that kind of brings me to a larger point, Tony, before we get to the running back specifically. If I hear one more time during the Combine broadcast, and, Rich Eisen, Daniel Jeremiah, Charles Davis, they're great. They do a great job. Stop telling me this was the fastest group that we've ever seen in the NFL Combine. Do you know why it was the fastest group? None of the slow guys ran. So if all the slow guys don't run the 40 and only the fast guys do, guess what? The average time's going to be really good. And you just had fewer slow guys running this year. It's not that complicated.
John, that's why you should be on the broadcast. That's for sure. Two things from the running backs, and I tend to agree with you, although there were some pretty fast times this year. So I don't know. I didn't put my mathematician hat on and try and average it out. I probably would have been wrong anyway. But as we talked about earlier, I thought Jeremiah Love was terrific, ran faster than expected. I thought the fact that he just participated in the entire workout and not only did the running back drills, but then hung around and did receiver drills with a couple of the other running backs, I thought spoke volumes. Your guy, Mike Washington, was absolutely incredible in the sense that, remember, we've talked about this before. The combine is about expectations, and the expectations for Mike Washington, who came into the season graded as a street free agent, played well in 2025, had a great Senior Bowl. The fact that here's a guy people expected to be a 4.5 guy, runs a 4.33, has a 39-inch vertical jump. The athleticism is there. I think speaks volumes for him. Obviously, he's jumped up draft boards because of that. We know he's a good ball carrier, 223 pounds. He grinded on the inside, but now you add that element of athleticism. Interesting thing about the running backs, and I don't know if you noticed this, the running backs did maybe 2 or 3 running back drills 80% of the position drills that the running backs did were pass catching drills. I mean, there weren't too many bag drills with their footwork. They did that at the beginning, but 80% of the drills that the running backs did was catching the football.
Yeah, I thought generally the guys did a pretty good job of it too. I want to throw some love out to one of the guys we talked about at the Shrine Bowl, our guy Eli Heidenreich. He did a nice job. I thought caught the ball really well. Though the little slot guy, third down back out of Navy, I thought he did well. Damon Claiborne, not a surprise. Tony ran really fast, a 4.37. Again, only 187 pounds, I think he was. I don't have it directly in front of me, but he was light, which is what we expected. But he ran really, really fast. To his credit, what you think of two of the bigger backs, Tony? I want to ask you about. Jadarian Price, who a lot of people think is going to be the second running back off the board. He 4.49 was the unofficial. I'm not sure what the official finally came in at. And then Seth McGowan out of Kentucky, a guy that we talked about at the Senior Bowl, who obviously had some issues with the law in his time in college, came back, and now he's trying to make a run here. Came in at 223 pounds, had the number one vert and the number one broad jump, which I think for a bigger back showed some pretty good explosion.
And ran relatively well, 4.49, which is a good time. Everyone talks about the 4.3s and Mike Washington, the 4.33, but 4.49 is a decent time. I think he tested better than people expected. I agree with you. I thought it was really good. Darian Price, I think he only tested. I don't think he did position drills. I don't remember seeing him in position drills. I thought McGowan.
No, he did. He did, I think. He did.
But didn't really stand out to me. McGowan had a real good workout, as did I was surprised by Jam Miller of Alabama. I thought overall he was terrific. 209 pounds, ran a 4.42, and I thought he looked very quick and very fluid during position drills.
Yeah, watching him on tape, I did not see a 4.43 time out of him at all. So I was surprised to see that. But really nice time for him. I think that he did really, really well. All right, let's jump over to wide receivers here, Tony. And this is going to be a much longer conversation because there's a lot of guys that are in this group that I think are interesting, but a lot of guys that did not test in this group, especially the 40. And, people will argue the top 5 guys in this class are Cornell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, in no particular order, Jordan Tyson, Denzel Boston, and Casey Concepcion. That's a lot of guys' top 5s in this group, right? One of those 5 guys tested. One in terms of the 40-yard dash. I mean, it was just disappointing not to see more guys run. Other guys did. Brazo ran. Cornell Tate was the only guy that run from that top group. But we did not see a lot of the top wide receivers run the 40 or do a lot of the time stuff in this year's workout.
And the guy that did run, Cornell Tate, there's some question about his 40 time. I think we should address that. His official 40 time came down at 4.53, and then scouts are saying, well, I had him at a 4.45, 4.56. That discrepancy's always been there, and it will always be there, because what happens is if you watch the combine, you'll see that there are a group of scouts that are at the 10-yard mark and the 20-yard mark and the 40-yard mark. And there's always a discrepancy to what compared to what the NFL network is putting on as the official time and the time that they have and scouts have. And teams will always go by what scouts have on their stopwatch. That's why they put them there. That's why they have them sit there, because they want their times. So even the one guy that timed, I mean, his time is now being questioned. I thought it was a major mistake for Jordan Tyson not to work out. I mean, considering the injury situation that we've seen from him, I didn't think that Denzel Boston did exceptionally well during position drills.
He had some drops. He had a couple of drops with Boston.
And he didn't look quick. And he didn't look like he was able to separate. We talked about how Chris Brazo, in the lead up the past couple of weeks, I thought he was going to test through the roof. Runs a 4.37 at basically 198 pounds. But the thing is, when he ran drills, he translated that speed onto the field during position drills. He was quick. He was running those routes, getting in and out of the breaks like a 180-pound receiver, not a 200-pound receiver, and he caught the ball exceptionally well. And that's one thing that I really like to watch is, do those guys who run fast or run faster than expected, do they translate that speed into drills? Skylar Bell of UConn, Caleb Douglas of Texas Tech, and Ted Hurst of Georgia State. Yeah. They ran much faster than anyone expected. But when I watched them in position drills, they were basically a tenth slower in position drills than they were for when they ran the 40. The difference between football speed and 40 speed. Chris Brazel, I thought, was exceptional. Ran a good 40 time, and then he translated that speed onto the field during drills. Guy who I thought Zach Branch outrunning by him during position drills. I think Malachi Fields took a real big hit. He ran slower than expected. I was talking to his people before the wide receivers took the field on Saturday. They were expecting times under 4.5. He runs over 4.6. He was dropping a ton of passes, didn't look quick during drills. I like Malachi Fields. I don't love him. Never really considered him a top 45 type of guy. People were talking about him being a late first-round pick. I never saw it. I think that combine workout really killed him.
Yeah, I'm with you. And then just going back to Cornell Tate, as a guy that we have talked about as a potential top 10 pick this year, you have not been as high on him as I have. But, he was a guy that calling it a need pick might be a little bit strong, but you had to try to find reasons based on his production to move him up that high and with that 40 time, Tony. And then on top of that, not doing either one of the jumps. And the fact that he didn't do either jump tells you that he would not have jumped well. If he would have jumped well, he would have done the jumps, right? So the fact that he did not do the jumps, along with the poor 40 time, which he ran twice, by the way. It was the same time twice that he ran on the 40. That makes you worry that he's under 200 pounds, 4'5" something, and he's 6'2". He didn't have elite production. I still love the player. The tape's great. Ohio State, really fundamentally sound player. Great body control, contested catches, all that great stuff. Love him. He's still a good player. But I think given those measurements, making the case to be in that top 7-ish range, I think, gets a little bit tougher without those numbers to back it up.
If you had him in the top 7, I never did. I always thought the earliest he would go was to the Chiefs at number 9, and that was a need pick. I'm looking at my board right now before the combine. Cornell Tate was my number 11 prospect on the board. So I never had him as a top 10 pick. I agree with everything you're saying, but we never looked at Cornell Tate as a vertical wideout. He was never a guy that was going to stretch the field. He is a consistent pass catcher who sees the field, has great football intellect and vision, came up with big catches during important situations for Ohio State, catches the ball extremely well, extends his hands, makes the reception away from his frame. You weren't drafting Cornell Tate to be a vertical receiver. And I have consistently said that any receiver that's taken in the top 7 this year's draft, I compare it to Corey Davis when he was selected, 5th in the draft by coming out of Western Michigan by the Tennessee Titans. And he never lived up to expectations. So I mean, it's all, I guess, relevant to what you thought beforehand. I've always thought that any receiver in the top 10 this year is a reach, but it's a different draft where there's no franchise-type player, generational talent in the top 10, say the way we had last year. I agree with you, but it doesn't surprise me because we never looked at him as a vertical receiver to begin with.
Yeah, see, Tony, I saw him as a deep threat. You watch him, you look at his yards per catch, they're very high. He was up, I think he was a 16, I'm trying to bring up his numbers here. My internet connection is not cooperating. He's like a 16, 17 yard per catch guy. 17.2 yards per catch. So he was a downfield threat. Was he a burner to the point that he's running by everybody? No, but he did create separation over the top. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to watch him again, and I'm going to get a better feel for it over the next few weeks, and we'll see where we land on Cornell Tate. But I think that's interesting. All right, a couple other receivers, Tony, I want to touch on real quick as we go. One guy that we spoke to at the Shrine Bowl, Jeff Caldwell, certainly helped himself, ran the 4.3s, had 11-foot broad, 42-inch vertical. Yep. He's still a day 3 guy. He's a guy that you're going to have to, develop because he's still pretty raw. But for a guy that was going to have to rely on his athleticism and his testing to get drafted high, I thought he did pretty well.
Yeah, and another guy that we spoke to at length at the Shrine Bowl, it was an enjoyable interview, J. Michael Sturdivant of Florida by way of UCLA. 4.4 in the 40, 39-inch vertical jump, 10-foot 11 broad jump, had a decent position work. One guy who I thought did exceptionally well during position drills, he wasn't really, really fast, was Jermaine Bernard. I thought he caught the ball really well during position drills. Good route runner. I actually spoke to the Oklahoma safety, Spears, filming in here. Help me out here. Who had a great workout. I
Don't
talked to him
remember.
about playing against Robert Spears, Robert Spears Jennings. I spoke with him about playing against Jermaine Bernard, and he had nothing but great things to say. He's a great receiver, great route runner, and I think you saw that during Bernard's position work at the combine.
Yeah, that was the guy I was going to bring up before he moved on to the next position, Tony. I thought he was really, really good, and showed a little bit more juice. I thought. Then I think I see him as kind of like a possession slot type of guy, but I thought he did a really, really nice job. I can't believe you didn't bring your guy Deion Burks. You've been a big Deion Burks
Yeah,
fan all year, and he comes up and blows this place up, Tony. I was waiting for you to take your flowers.
yeah, I'm glad to see that. I actually spoke with him at length. Whenever they, I think it was Friday, 4-3 in the 40, 42 and a half Burt, 10, 11. The issue with Burks is the physical skills have always been there. He's a little bit shorter at 5'10", and the injury history. We talked about Jordan Tyson. With Deion Burks, it's also an issue with injuries. Excellent interview, answered a lot of questions. Well, a lot of this stuff is rehearsed. Very happy to see it. I absolutely believe I've had him as a top 40. I had him as a top 45 pick. At the very worst, I think this affirms him or seals him, cements him as a top 60 selection. We talk about his receiver skills. He also has returnability as well at the next level.
Yeah, did a really nice job. And there was one other guy here that I wanted to mention. You know what? Maybe we did. Oh, no, yeah, you mentioned it before. Zachariah Branch. His testing was great, Tony, but I thought the field workout for him was important, right? As a guy that was kind of a gimmicky gadget wide receiver for Georgia. A lot of screens, a lot of stuff around the line of scrimmage. Didn't catch a lot of balls downfield. I thought his field workout was really good, and I did think that was very important for him, given some of the questions that we were all left with after watching his tape this year.
His route running was incredible. And what really stood out to me at position drills is the way he explodes out of his routes. He's able to run his routes without losing momentum. He doesn't gather into breaks. Is he? I still think he's going to be more of a gadget player at 5'9", 177 pounds. You're going to have to line him up in the slot. You got to keep him off of press coverage, and the film shows that. He needs space to work, but the speed and the route running, and he caught everything that was thrown to him. I would agree with you. He, as I mentioned earlier, I thought he was one of the better receivers at the combine.
We're in the Hackensack Marina Hill podcast studio. Keep getting better. Looking for more than just a ticket? Elevate Experiences delivers VIP access to the world's biggest events, from the Super Bowl to NASCAR to PGA Tour tournaments. Jones just attend. Elevate the experience at elevateexperiences.com. Don't just attend. John Schmoke, Tony Pauline. We're rolling through our positions here on our combine review. Tony, let's go to tight end here. Really good jumps and 40 times from Eli Stowers and Kenyon Sadiq. Didn't see anything from them after that. Did not do any of the field drills. And otherwise, I thought we just saw a bunch of guys that I would feel really comfortable picking kind of like in the middle of this draft. Some guys that more of an F guy, some guys more of a Y and line guy. But guys that can definitely fill roles. Maybe not your number one tight end, maybe not a future, Pro Bowler or high-end starter, but a bunch of guys that can contribute for you at that position for years to come.
And we knew that, right? Isn't that what we talked about? It was one guy, Kenyon Sadiq, at the top, and I think he absolutely helped himself. We knew he was a great athlete. He proved to be. We knew he was a real good athlete. He proved to be an Olympic type athlete with his testing, with the bench press, and the fact he's got hands over 10 inches. That also helps. But we knew that. We knew he was coming into the process. I think Eli Stowers helped himself running in the low 4.5s. Again, you want to beat expectations at the combine. Eli Stowers was considered a 4.65 guy by scouts coming into the season. He runs a 4.51 at the combine. That's really going to help him a lot. I thought Cuevas was pretty solid. You mentioned Lake McCree, but you're right. I mean, we got what we expected from the tight end class. One guy at the top, a lot of players starting probably mid to late second round through the fourth, fifth round that will start off as number twos and maybe develop into number ones at the next level.
Yeah, Eli Raridon I thought was pretty good. Lake McCree, you mentioned, I thought he did a pretty nice job. What do you think of the Stanford tight end, Tony? A lot of people were raving about the job he did.
I mean, he's solid. He's in my opinion, he's your classic number 2 or number 3 tight end. He catches the ball well. He's good, but there's nothing that stands out to me about him on film that makes me say, we're going to take him in the 3rd or 4th round.
I wanted to see a better time out of Tanner Koziel running. I think at 4.71 was the time I've written down for him. What do you think of
Maryland? Was an interesting. RG Maryland
yeah.
of SMU was an interesting one. I mean, he ran super fast. Here's a guy that's been switched back between receiver and tight end at SMU. Missed most of last season with a knee injury. 4.51 at 236 pounds, 6'4", which means he's got some growth potential. So I think what RG Maryland did is, when you get into those late rounds, teams are looking for those size speed guys. He's a size speed guy. Are you going to use him as a conventional tight end? Are you going to use him as an H-back? Are you going to use him, lined up in the backfield on occasion? Whatever it is, just as long as his medicals are clean from the knee injury in 2024, I think Maryland helped himself with his testing. And the fact that he came in at 6'4", 236 pounds.
Yeah, certainly helps. All right, let's go to the offensive line here, Tony. And look, I think there's as many questions as there were before we started with this group. I think some guys did well. In terms of movement skills, I just think, Spencer Fano, again, just kind of looked different than everybody else. His lateral movement, his quickness, his fluidity, his smoothness, his ability to change directions. Only 32.5-inch arms, I think it was. Now
32 and an eighth, and that is a big concern. I'm going to disagree with you. Fano was my number one tackle coming in the process. With 32 and an eighth-inch arms, I think he's the number 2 tackle if he even is a tackle. Now, if you're following me on Twitter, I put a tweet out there yesterday that I was seeing smaller than expected arm length at the combine like last year. And I mentioned Max Iannacore, who we'll speak about. And Max Iannacore at the Senior Bowl, his arm length was 34 and a half inches. At the combine, it was, I believe, 33 and 5/8 inches. I'll bring it up in a second. 34 and a half inches at the Senior Bowl, 33 and 7/8 inches. So he was 5/8 of an inch shorter at the combine than he was at the Senior Bowl. We saw this last year. If you remember, Will Campbell last year was like 32 and 3/8 at the combine. Then all of a sudden at Pro Day, he was 33 inches. I don't know. I don't think that Fano's going to be able to get an extra 7/8 of an inch arm length at Pro Day. I think it'll be closer to 33 inches. But I think that arm measurement right there, maybe he's the number 1 offensive lineman, but he's definitely not the number 1 offensive tackle.
He moved well, though, man. Like, his movement skills are fantastic.
Completely agree with you. As far as the offensive lineman was concerned, he was the cream of the crop. What do you want? 4.91, which tied 3 other guys as the fastest time. His position work was outstanding. He was quick-footed. He was smooth. You don't want to see a lot of herky-jerky motion in these guys. You want to see a lot of fluidity. You want to see when they change direction, they're able to easily change direction rather than gather themselves and change direction. You saw a lot of fluidity, a lot of smoothness. You saw good footwork from Fano throughout the process, throughout the workout on Sunday. But the big topic for him is going to be the arm length. Can he play? Is he going to be a tackle? Is he going to be a left tackle on Sunday? Or will teams look at that arm length, which I'm sure is still going to come under 33 inches at Pro Day, and say, no, we got to kick him inside the guard.
Maui Noah did go over 33 inches on the arm length, Tony, but he did not do any field work.
Yeah, which, I mean, you saw a lot of the Indiana guys and the Miami guys. Some of them just did position drills. Some of them just ran a 40, and that was it. Few of them did the complete workouts. I guess he has he's got an excuse. He was 33 and a quarter inches arm length at the combine. I'm sure when it gets to Miami Pro Day, he's going to be like 33 and 5/8 inch or closer to 34 inches. But yeah, 6'5" and a half, 329 pounds. I mean, it is what it is with the college football season being pushed into the middle of January. These guys now have an excuse not to work out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Tony. All right, let's take a tackle here before we go over to guard. You mentioned Max Iannacore, 4.91, 40, 33 and 7/8 arms. You mentioned 6'6", 321. Freeling out of Georgia, I thought was pretty good. 6'7", 315, 34 and 3/4 arm length. I thought he did. Caleb Lomu, I thought, looked pretty good running the drills. 6'6", 313 with 34+ inch arms. Blake Miller, I thought, looked okay. Caden Proctor, 352. I guess that's not bad for him, given where I think he played during the year. So it's not a terrible number, but he's still heavy. Only 33 and 3/8 arms, which was surprising to me, given that he's so tall. But that's where it came in for him. I thought he moved okay. Change of direction maybe I thought was a little bit wonky. But I think it's a decent tackle class. If you want one, you better get one by pick 50. Otherwise, they're all going to be gone. But I thought the guys did okay.
Enrique Cruz from Kansas. I mean, here's a guy who wasn't even on the scouting radar before the season began. It wasn't graded. Had a good senior season, 313 pounds, runs 4.94 with a very quick 1.74 split, 35-inch vertical jump, 9'8" in the broad, 33 3/4 inch arms at the combine, which I'm sure means when Kansas Pro Day comes around, he's going to be over 34 inches. And he looked that athletic during position drills. I mean, he was fluid, he was smooth, moved around the field exceptionally well. I mean, again, for a guy who wasn't on the scouting radar prior to the season, for him to perform like this, he may be a 2-year project, but he cemented himself as a day 3 pick that has a tremendous amount of upside. I noticed two guys that you mentioned, two things. I noticed Freeling kind of petered out at the end of the workout. He looked like he was really struggling. Whether it was conditioning, but he kind of died at the end of the workout. Blake Miller had good times, but during position drills, I thought Blake Miller was very stiff. I mean, he did not perform athletically during position drills as we saw during the testing portion of it. And my guy, Max Iannacor, I mean, he was terrific. He's absolutely terrific. I think you got to start to talk about him as a potential late first-round pick. If the Patriots want to go offensive line, get a right tackle for the future, I think that's the way they got to look.
All right, let's go to the interior offensive line here, Tony. I thought Chase Basantis of the guards moved the best. I thought he was very mobile. I thought he moved very well. I thought our guy Vega was fine. Ioane, I thought he was okay. He's just not a great mover. But we knew that going in. He wasn't gonna wow people with his athleticism, his side to side, his fluidity. He's a mauler. He's gonna beat the out of you, and he's gonna enjoy every minute of it. I thought Trey Zune moved pretty well. Where he winds up at center or wherever he winds up playing. Logan Jones, the Iowa center, I thought moved pretty well over the course of the day. I thought he was pretty impressive. And then your guy Emmanuel Pregnone. I want to give you a chance to talk about him again. Much like Vega, he's not going to be the smoothest mover because he's more of a mauler type, but I thought he was fine too.
He shows on film the ability to block on the second level, to get out there and take out linebackers, take out players, smaller players than him, the ability to redirect, and he blocks just with a nasty, nasty attitude. I think he's very undervalued. Getting back to Logan Jones, 4'9", the fastest time of all the offensive linemen, 1.75 split. His arms, he's 299 pounds. You think in zone blocking scheme, his arms were under 31 inches at the combine, which means the pro day, I would expect it to be probably 31 and change. That's going to keep him as a day 3 pick. I thought Jennings Dunker did relatively well, 4.18 in the 40 big deal, but he moved much better, I thought, than he tested on the field. Jagger Burton of Kentucky, 4.94 in the 40 with a quick 10-yard split of 1.76. I thought he did very well in the position drills. And Nez Cooper of Miami, like Marioa, did not test, but I thought he looked really good in position drills. On Nez Cooper from Miami, a guy that people don't talk about, but I thought he looked terrific in position drills. For a 334-pound lineman, I think he cemented himself as a day 3 selection.
Yeah, Burton's one of those guys I talked to at the Shrine Bowl as well. If you guys want to find those, you keep mentioning these guys that we talked to, go to the John Soto podcast, guys. We go back. It's, I don't know, about at this point, a month ago. We had a chance to talk to a bunch of guys at the Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl. A lot of the guys we're talking about. Some of them are on audio only, so go make sure you go subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to check that out.
Let me just say, Pregnone, you're looking at Pregnone here, we're talking more 35-inch vertical jump. That is pretty good for a 314-pound offensive lineman.
Well, explosive. He's got power in his legs, and I think you do see that. You just don't get the side-to-side twitchiness really that you would think. But again, we don't expect watching him play. That's not what his game is. He's not as mobile as like a
11-inch hands as well. People handling. You want offensive line with big hands to get them into those defenders. It's easy for them to control the opponents.
Draft season is presented by Moody's, a proud partner of the New York Giants. Decode risk, unlock opportunity. Learn more at Moody's.com. All right, Tony, let's jump to the defensive side of the ball. Defensive tackle, I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. Caleb Banks was fine, didn't finish his workout. He was a really good athlete. Then we just have a bunch of, pluggers in this group, right? Zane Durant was really good. We knew he was going to be, though. He's small. He's under 300 pounds. Otherwise, you got a bunch of nose tackles. I don't want to see these nose tackles run all these drills and run 40s. It just doesn't really matter with what you're going to ask him to do anyway.
Grace Halton had his moments. I thought Caleb Proctor of Southeastern Louisiana, who we saw at the Shrine Bowl, actually did pretty good. 4.79 in the 40, 33-inch vertical jump. Transition those testing skills into position drills on the field, to transit those testing numbers into position drills. Only 291 pounds. He's a one gap 3 technique guy, but the testing numbers match up with what you want in a 3 technique lineman. 4.71 20-yard shuttle, which is good because you want those 3 technique one gap guys to have a good change of direction. I thought he did very well, but I would agree with you. Peter Woods didn't work out. And all the other guys, or Xavier Harris was okay. Lee Hunter had his moments, but was not consistent. I thought Albert Regis looked good at times. I thought Chris McClellan looked good during position drills, very athletic. You mentioned Zane Durant. I'm going down the list here. No one popped at that position. No one at all, except for the later round guys.
I'm with you. So let's jump over to the edge position now, Tony. And, to me, I want to start here because I think it's an interesting conversation. Keldrick Falk looked like the guy that he was on tape, right? He was smooth. He ran the hoop drill pretty well. But, man, there's no burst. Like on that first defensive line drill he ran where you kind of go side to side, then front and back, it's like he was running in quicksand. And I'm just going to struggle with him because I don't know what to make of him. Because you could tell he's a good athlete. He's big. He's long. He's smooth. But I just don't see that burst out of him. So I'm going to have trouble with him all draft cycle. I know it already. And I don't know. I don't know what team's going to like him and what teams aren't.
Oh, you didn't see a burst or you didn't see effort? I mean, and that's got to be the question, because I agree with you. And you're talking to a guy who was really high on Keldrick Falk coming into the season. I thought he was a potential top 5 pick. When I broke down the Auburn film, which was right before I left for the combine, I was horrified. I was like, this guy flashes brilliance and then he disappears. He looks like he'd rather be out fishing or something, whatever he likes to do. And I saw the same thing during the combine. I didn't see a guy that looked like he wanted to kill it like some of these other guys. I just saw a guy who was like, okay, I'm here. Let's just go through it, go through the exercise, which really disappointed me because I'm a Kendrick Falk guy. So I completely agree with you. It was an extension of what I saw on film. And I really was disappointed to the point of being like, oh, what am I looking at watching him on film?
All right, so let's go to a guy that didn't work out, and then we'll get to the positives. Ruben Bain measured in just under 31-inch arms. Like, to your point, that's probably going to be higher when they gets remeasured at Miami's Pro Day. But even if it is, even if he gets up to 31 and a half, it's still very short for a defensive end edge player. He's a very uniquely shaped guy. A lot of people think he might be a better 3 technique, but he's only 270 pounds. He didn't work out ostensibly. And again, you mentioned it, Miami, they only played about a month ago. So, I get those guys not being ready to go here, but I don't think he's going to test very well. He doesn't, when you watch him on tape, he doesn't look like a guy that's going to test very well. So from what you heard about people and their opinions on Bain, his tape's excellent. I would still have no problem using a top 10 pick on him, and I do it without blinking. I think he's that powerful and that strong, that relentless, that good of a player. But what were you hearing about Bain and what kind of the decision makers were saying about him out there?
They don't know yet. I mean, the talk was about the arm length and the short arm length, although short arm length on a guy like Ruben Bain is not as bad as, say, Caleb Fano, which is going to basically equate to a potential position change.
Spencer Fano,
I apologize.
I do the same thing. I always combine Caleb Lomu, and Spencer Fano, because they're both Utah linemen. And there's also a Fano edge player, which makes it even more confusing, by the way. Correct.
Fano, right, his brother. It was like a wait and see. He's a good edge rusher. The production was a concern, or the lack of production was a concern, because he gets up the field a lot. You remember we had the same conversation about Shamar Stewart a year ago. I mean, a guy who was a great athlete who was getting behind the line of scrimmage, and he had 2 sacks. So that was a concern. It's going to be a wait and see as far as his testing numbers are. I didn't hear anybody. A lot of people use the word risk when it came to Ruben Bain. There's a bit of risk there, more so than what I heard coming into the combine. And it was the same thing with Akeem Mesidor, because Akeem Mesidor is not the biggest guy in the world. He didn't work out like Bain. They're going to wait for the Miami Pro Day. They'll probably throw up sensational numbers. 6'3", 259 pounds, which means he's not going to get that much bigger. Is he out of a three-point stance guy? Is he fast enough to stand over tackle? What's his versatility? So I think they from what I was hearing is there's a bit of risk in both Miami guys.
Yeah, I buy that.
Or there's the concern of risk with both Miami guys, which is the better way to put it.
All right, David Bailey, I thought was excellent. He did everything he needed to do. I don't think I think he sticks right where he is. Dennis Sutton, Tony, really nice job. Again, not the twitchiest or change of direction or bendy, but that's fine. He's a big, strong, powerful, explosive edge guy that's going to be good against the run and be a pocket crusher. TJ Parker, I thought, did well. I think he's right where he needs to be in that mid-bottom half of the first round. Romello Height I thought was fine. I wish his 40 was a little bit faster than 4.64, but I'll take it. Malachi Lawrence was great. Another guy that we spoke to out there at the Shrine Bowl. Go find that interview. 40-inch vert, 10-10 broad, 1.58 split, which is ridiculously good. 4.53 40-yard dash overall. And then another guy we didn't talk to him at the Shrine Bowl, but we talked about him a lot. Mason Rieger out of Wisconsin. Came in at 251 pounds. I thought he might be lighter than that, but 251 is a good weight. 40-inch vert, 10.5 broad, 161 40 split, 4.79 40. He was very, very fast. So those are the guys that kind of jumped out to me.
And Rieger was terrific in position drills. Absolutely terrific. With Lawrence, a guy that didn't have great production, but, you look at the size, 6'4", 253. You figure he could put on more weight, incredibly athletic. It's just a matter of transitioning that athletic skills into production. David Bailey, people talk about the 40 time. What impressed me about David Bailey was in position drills, the way he was able to drop in the space, the amount of movement he was able to cover, the change of direction. His hands were terrible because he kept dropping all the passes thrown to him as far as interception or coverage drills were concerned. But the movement skills and the ability to go sideline to sideline and get depth, that you could use him on zone blitzes. I agree with you about Dennis Sutton. I thought LT Overton was relatively effective. 274 pounds, ran a 4.87, looked good in position drills. A lot of explosion, a lot of pop, a lot of suddenness in his game, if you will. Cassius Howell, another guy that had shorter arms than expected. Going down the list here, Romello Height was solid. As you had Trey Moore of Texas is worth the conversation. They have him branded as an edge rusher. 6'2", 243 pounds, ran a 4.54, 38.5-inch vertical jump. He had, as I reported, had a grade 3 pectoral strain, which he was working out and didn't do position drills. Here's the thing about Trey Moore. Again, and this really annoys me. He's being branded as an edge rusher, but he's more of a 3-down linebacker. I believe he was misused, miscast at Texas. You go back to his Texas San Antonio film when he played there, and he was a terrific off-ball linebacker. And he's got off-ball linebacker testing numbers. And coaches I spoke to said, yes, we like him, not as an edge rusher, but playing off the line of scrimmage in space. I was told that if he's healthy, teams really want to see him do linebacker drills, not edge rushing drills, linebacker drills during the Texas Pro Day. So that's something to keep an eye on. And there was a time when Trey Moore was considered a top 100 prospect. His game has kind of fallen off, I think, because he was misused at Texas. So if he falls into day 3, which is a possibility, some team is going to get a steal.
Moody's is a proud partner of the New York Giants, uniting the brightest minds to turn today's risk into tomorrow's opportunities. Learn more at Moody's.com. Well, Tony, speaking of off-ball linebackers that people want to put at edge, let's start off Reese here as we get to the linebackers. 6'4", 241, 32.5-inch arms, jumped well, 4.47, 40-yard dash. Did a nice job. I mean, I think his workout was really good. I still see him as I like him better as an off-ball linebacker than a straight-up edge, but he was very clear when he spoke at the podium. I see myself as an edge player. I'm sure his agent told him that when he showed him the comparative salaries between edge players and off-ball linebackers, and that was the end of that conversation. But look, to me, he's still a slam dunk top 5 player. And whether you want to, play him the first 2 downs at off ball and then rush him on 3rd down, however you want to use him, he's a really good football player. He knows how to play. So while he might be a projection as an edge player, there is no projection in terms of his instinctual instincts as a football player and how good of a football player is. But he's a good football player right now, and his testing did nothing to make you think differently.
The thing about Reese is, I mentioned Jeremiah Love going through the entire workout. So did Reese. In fact, at the end of the linebacker workout, I don't know what they showed on the TV, but I stayed. They brought out the hoops for him to do the hoop.
Did they?
But he hurt himself. He looked like he hurt his hamstring or he hurt his hip on the first one, and they kind of ushered him off. It didn't look serious. But he did stay out there and give it the go. I agree with you. I mean, I think the fact that he went up there on the podium and said, I'm an edge rusher was scripted. Basically, it's, to say that because of the edge is more valuable, it's going to make more money, bigger contract. But listen, I've said this all along. I think he's a 3-down linebacker who's best in space, in coverage, pursuing the run, that can also rush the passer when necessary.
I'm with you. All right, and then the guy that stole the show, Sonny Styles, Tony. And, we've talked about what a good player he is for weeks. And rarely, and again, we thought he was going to test all. We all know he was a good athlete. But the best parts of Sonny Styles' games are his mental, right? And his smarts and his being in the right place and reading the offense. So the fact that he puts this athletic testing on top of everything that made him a great football player, I got more than one person raving to me about how good he was in interviews over the course of the week. I mean, I don't see how this guy gets out of the top 5 or top 7 in this draft. I don't care that he's an off-ball linebacker. I mean, he's Fred Warner. Who doesn't want Fred Warner? I mean, he's that good.
Fred Warner with speed, because Warner didn't test like Sonny Styles did. And like you said, I mean, it's also the lineage, the bloodlines, as far as coming up in a football family and the testing. We saw his brother a day later, run faster than anybody else on the field. But I would agree with you. I mean, I think it's going to boast well for him going in the top 7, potentially number 5. That was the talk at the combine. Listen, if this was 30 years ago, 35 years ago, with the value that people put on linebackers, Fernando Mendoza may not be the first pick of the draft. The first 2 picks of the draft will probably be Arvell Reese, then Sonny Styles, because that's how valued the position was all that long ago. Or not that, well, it was long ago, I guess, 35 years.
No, I'm with you. Look, I mean, there's no hole in the game, Tony. Like, you could try to, like, what's the question about Sonny Styles? He's such a safe player. Like, I can't, when I watch the tape and I see the workout and I hear about him in the mental and him as a person, there's nothing that gives me pause like, well, this might not work out because of this. Like, I can't find that factor.
I think the question is he doesn't have great sack numbers. And everybody wants to see those linebackers. We go back to Arvell Reese. Well, everybody wants that linebacker, those linebackers with great sack numbers, and he doesn't have them. As far as the other linebackers, I thought Caleb Elarms was terrific. Ran
fast.
4.47, 40-inch vertical jump, 10.5-inch broad, 20-yard shuttle, 4.41. That's okay, but in position drills, he translated that speed in the position drills, sideline to sideline, showed quick feet during those bag drills, able to get depth on his pass drops. I thought Elarms did a terrific job during position drills, overall as well, I should say.
Yeah, I'm with you. Kyle Lewis tested really well. We expected him to at 220 pounds. How he gets used remains to be seen. If you can find a role for him, the guy's a good football player. Golday out of Cincinnati, I thought, did pretty well, Tony. 239 pounds, bigger guy. 4'6", which is fine. 39-inch vert, 10.5 broad. I thought he did pretty good. Who else do I have here that I thought looked pretty good? Oh, I thought Jacob Rodriguez tested really well given expectations. And I thought he moved pretty well in the field drills too. So could he maybe push himself into the end of the second round here given how good the college tape was, now the workout numbers? And I think he's going to, I think his interviews are going to go really well too given his personality and his intelligence. So to me, Jacob Rodriguez had a really, really nice week.
6'9", 3-cone drill. Under 7 for a linebacker, under 7 seconds, 231 pounds for a linebacker. I still think he needs work on his man cover skills, as we saw at the Senior Bowl. But he has the athleticism to do that. Disappointing that C.J. Allen didn't work out. I thought Jimmy Rolder of Michigan, who I kind of thought was a suspect decision for him to enter the draft. I thought he looked good in position drills. Justin Jefferson of Alabama, who kind of gets lost in the shuffle, 4.57 in the 38.5-inch vertical jump. He also did, I thought, very well during the position drill.
Your man Anthony Hill did well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hang on a second. I'm going back up there. Hill, a little bit small, or a little bit short, I should say, 6'2", 238 pounds, 4.51, 37-inch vertical jump. 21 reps on the bench with arms that came in at 32.5 inches. So was glad to see that.
Yeah, I thought he did really well. All right, let's jump over to cornerback. And I should bet you mentioned the 3-cone on Rodriguez. Well, right. We should have mentioned Jeremy Bernard had a 6.71 3-cone, a wide receiver, which, by the way, is a ridiculous number for a 3-cone drill time. So we didn't mention that a wide receiver. I wanted to get that in there. Quarterbacks, Tony, I thought the group looked pretty good, to be honest with you. I was impressed by the group. I thought they did well. A lot of guys did not run, which is fine. But Chris Johnson, my guy, who I love at the top of the second round, maybe even bottom of the first round now, he good tape, and people worried about his speed. We talked about it heading into the combine, how his 40 time, Tony, was going to be important. 4.43, 10.6 broad, 38 vert, came in at 193 pounds, even did 17 bench press reps to lead cornerbacks in that area. So really, really, really nice day for Chris Johnson out of San Diego State.
I would not grade him as a late first-round pick, but as we've seen time and time again, there are surprises in the bottom 10 picks of round one, and a lot of those surprises have to do at the cornerback position. Malik Muhammad and the kid from Latrell McCutcheon from Houston. Malik Muhammad of Texas, Latrell McCutcheon of Houston, I thought did very well. They beat expectations significantly. Malik Muhammad, there was talk at the Senior Bowl. You were there. He's a slow guy, may not get into 4.6, runs a 4.42. Latrell McCutcheon, who the film shows he's got terrific ball skills, was expected to be a 4.55 40 guy, runs in the low 4.4s at the combine. I thought that was an outstanding time for him. A couple of the other guys.
Tacario Davis, man, 6'4", 194, ran a 4.41. That's darn good.
I thought Colton Hood did exceptionally well during position drills. 4.44, which is a good time. I mean, people talk about it. 4.44 is fast enough. 40.5-inch vertical jump, 10.11 broad, 10.5 broad jump. During position drills, he was very smooth. What I want to see from these guys is, are they able to pedal? Are they able to pedal in reverse with speed, flip their hips without losing balance and keep their momentum? Colton Hood absolutely answered those questions after what was, a sort of a tough Senior Bowl. Where he was getting beat early on.
Yeah, I agree, Tony. I thought Colton Hood did a nice job. Came in a 4.44. I thought, after a mediocre Senior Bowl, came out, had a nice little combine. I'm with you on that. D'Angelo Pons, very small. The measurements match what we thought they were going to match, but jumped 43.5 inches. I thought Avion Terrell in the field work was very smooth, flipping his hips and stuff like that, even though he did in time. But overall, I thought the corners did a nice job.
One guy who really stood out to me, I didn't write about him, Tacario Davis of Washington. 4.41, 40, 37-inch vertical jump, 6'4", 194 pounds. Now, Tacario Davis, when he was at Arizona, people were talking about him being a potential first-round pick. Transferred, followed his coach to Washington. Game kind of leveled off, was injured last year, didn't play a full season. He showed flashes rather than consistency. So I still think he's going to be a day 3 pick. But with those numbers and that prior tape going back to early in his college career at Arizona, definitely cemented himself as a day 3 selection.
I agree. All right, Tony, let's wrap things up and go to the safety position. Bud Clark had a good run. He's got a lot of ball skills. His athleticism timed out. And both of us like Dylan Thieneman. Like, we talked about him even before the season started. I had a day 2 grade on him. I was even blown away by a 4.35 out of him. I did not see that number coming.
41-inch vertical jump. I'm disappointed he didn't do the 3-cone or the 20-yard shuttle. I want to see what his lateral speed is. I'll tell you who had a good combine workout. It's someone that I've been down on, and we talked about him on and off this podcast. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, 4.52 in the 40, 35-inch vertical jump. I thought he was very good during position drills. 6'3 and a half, 201 pounds. Credit to him for making me look foolish, but he had a terrific workout. Traydon Stukes of Arizona, another guy who did very well, 6'1", 190 pounds, 4.33 in the 40, 38-inch vertical jump, 1.5 flat 10-yard split, which is an exceptional mark. Bishop Fitzgerald of USC looking drills. Robert Spears Jennings, he had a terrific workout. 4.32 in the 40, 35-inch vertical jump. Looked really good in the in position drills. I thought he definitely helped himself. Comes out of the combine with higher grades. Jalen Husky did the position drills, didn't work out. I actually spoke with Jalen Husky during media day. He was a terrific interview. I asked him, I said, do you have a chip on your shoulder? Because everyone talks about the top defensive backs, the top safeties. You're never in the conversation. He says, I always play with a chip on my shoulder. It was a terrific answer.
I thought Kilgore had a good day as well. Yeah. I thought Chandler Rivers at a Duke moved really well, showed he's a good athlete, not the biggest guy, but I thought he moved well. I'm with you. I think the defensive backs, Tony, in general, certainly they helped themselves. All right, let's wrap things up here, Tony. Before we go, just give me your 10,000-foot view of the combine, what you thought of the groups, what you thought of how it went, anything else you heard out there that is really going to impact our draft process moving forward.
Yeah, I don't think, except for Sonny Styles, I don't think there's going to be much movement at the top of the draft with any of these guys. I think as we've seen in the past, there could be some surprises late in the first round because of some of these workouts, especially at the defensive back position, the cornerback position, as you mentioned. I think people are reading too much into the 40 time of Carnell Tate. He's a terrific receiver. I never expected him to be a great athlete. And the good news is, I guess, that they announced, or I heard somebody from the Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce announce that they have agreed with the league to keep the combine in Indianapolis for 2027, 2028. Hopefully they'll keep it there for the next 30 years as long as they have the combine, because it's the perfect city to have an event like that. You don't have to go outside. Everything is inside in case the bad weather comes. It's easy flight for people from the East Coast, people from the West Coast, people from the Southern states. And again, Indianapolis did a terrific job.
Any other intel about the draft and how this thing might go that you want to share?
No, not on the record anyway.
Nah, fair enough. All right, I'm going to stop the record, and then you can tell me all your dirty
while
secrets.
We're recording.
All right, next couple weeks, guys, we're going to do our post-combine top 10s on offense and defense. I think it's a good time for that as Tony finalizes those lists. Then maybe we'll do a little post-combine mock. We'll have pro days rolling out as well, a lot of news from that. And then, boy, Tony, we are, let's see, about 50 or so days away from the start of the NFL draft. It is coming fast, man. We don't have much time to waste.
Yeah, I know. The pro day schedule actually starts a little later. I think the first pro days for combine players starts March 12th. So that's going to be that is a major exercise along with the combine. So it should be fun. I mean, I think the only definite as of right now that we know of is that Fernando Mendoza is going to be the first pick of the draft. After that, it's anybody's guess, which could make it either fun or stressful, depending on your point of view.
Or both. Maybe you like stress. Maybe stress is fun. Who knows? All right, Tony, good stuff. Anything coming out on Essentially Sports we should keep an eye on?
We'll have an updated big board. By the end of this week, we will have 99% of the Big Ten scouting reports in there. So that's going to be close to 250 total scouting reports on the top 500 players, as well as some adjustments for the rankings based on what I saw and what I heard this week. And eventually we will have all the correct heights, weights, and 40 times in there.
All right, can't wait to see it, Tony. And again, next couple weeks we'll do our top tens on offense and defense for each position group. And as we continue to move along in this draft process, right here on Draft Season, presented by Moody's, a proud partner of the New York Giants. Decode risk, unlock opportunity. Learn more at Moody's.com. We'll come to you again next week from the Hackensack Rudy Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. For Tony Pauline, I'm John Schmelk. Enjoy your week. We'll see you next week, everybody.